Hey, I'm Alby Bocanegra, Vice President of Global City Partnerships at Mastercard. I'm super excited to be participating in Island Sessions. I'm stoked to be hanging out with my friends at EcoOrg. Let's have an awesome conversation.
Alby, welcome to the Allen Sessions. Thank you for joining us. Let's get started. Smart cities is your thing. What do you think we can do to make our cities more resilient and sustainable?
Well, so there's a bunch of different things I think that we can look at from different perspectives. But I think it just all boils down to using this opportunity and this time that we have on our hands um, to kind of really rethink our urban centers. For a long time, cities have been really dense and there's been a lot of traffic and congestion and like things that are really like not contributing to making the city livable. But we have this opportunity to reset right now. So part of livability or making cities, a lot more easier to participate in, could be there are some technology solutions behind that, right? So there's some things that we can think about like equitable access to the internet, ensuring that residents' privacy and security is protected when we're deploying technology into the public realm. Just kind of on the whole, like that smart cities conversation, right? There's a bunch of things that we could do, but I think for me, a lot of that is really analog as well. So that's also preserving cultural institutions, ensuring that people have activities to participate in, they can get out and go outside and enjoy green spaces. Um, Also to make sure that there's an opportunity to listen to live music, because I think that, music and culture is really kind of the identity of a city. And so we have an opportunity as cities, as people that support cities and that partner with cities to ensure that when we're thinking about all these technological things that we're doing to make cities more livable, we really think about like and I'll probably get a little bit philosophical here, but like on feeding people's spirits as well. And I think that's why you need culture, and that's why you need places where people can kind of participate and coexist and enjoy a meal, enjoy a drink, enjoy some music, enjoy a beautiful piece of art, enjoy a public art installation outdoors and some green spaces, and kind of be together. And I think that truly is what makes the city livable, is the ability to kind of uh, enjoy it with your fellow human. And that kind of gets lost into translation a little bit when we start talking about resilience and livability and sustainability, as we forget that uh, the human connection is equally, if not more important than all of those other things. So providing opportunities for human interaction and to connect with your fellow humans is going to be equally as important.
And before joining MasterCard, you actually worked as the CTO of New York City, one of the densest, busiest cities in the world. What can you tell us about your time there, and what are some of your biggest achievements there?
So, I mean, that's a loaded question, right? Because when you're, acting as the CTO of one of the most important global cities in the world, not only are you, everything you do is amplified, but it also, every decision you make impacts many, many people. So for me, I think some of the things that were really important for us is to be able to kind of co-create and co-develop either problem statements and solutions from the community. We've really believed in the bottom up approach to to creating innovation and making change in our city. So the things that I really cared about was getting the voice of the resident heard in every project that we created and delivered. So the whole human center approach for our office and building technology around the resident was very important. So, we really focused on ensuring that residents had equitable access to the internet. So a lot of work was happening there. We also focused on creating innovation challenges that were driven and created by the community. So partnering with local stakeholders, with academics, with NGOs from the communities that we were trying to serve, and thinking through what some problems were and what some of the most pressing challenges were, and then creating these innovation challenges that really amplified that and invited industry, academia, and other stakeholders to participate in the solution. And so I think that we were really focused on that, is just kind of creating a holistic approach to deploying technology in the public realm. And a lot of stuff falls under that, right? Like digitizing government services, um, providing broadband, like I mentioned, Wi-Fi in public spaces, but more than anything, ensuring that when we did deploy technology, underpinning that technology was also ethics, privacy, and security. And so the thing that I'm most proud of, although I'm proud of every single thing that that office did because there was brilliant people that were really dedicated to serving the public, the thing that I think that we did really well was partnering and co-founding the city's coalition for digital rights. And the reason why I think that that was the most important thing that we did in that office was because it was not just the New York, Barcelona, Amsterdam, and United Nations coalition. It was a coalition for the world. And we really focused on ensuring that, like I said, transparency, privacy, security, and education was behind everything that we deployed and providing a framework for other cities to be able to consume and to understand. So when they're deploying technology, whether it's IoT sensors or using AI or using data, that it was done with partners who also respected the same embedding that privacy and embedding ethics and ensuring that it was to serve people, not to consume from people. And so I think the city's coalition for digital rights was the thing that I was most proud of that we founded. The other part of it is because it is a global coalition, it lives beyond administrations, right? So it's not based on what any administration for any city that's participating is prioritizing or thinking about. This is what we all should be thinking about as a global community. I also think the city's coalition is going to outlive me. It's definitely going to, outlive my co-founders. And I think that's what's really important is that you create frameworks and you create programs that are going to serve people beyond administrations, beyond decades, and kind of keep up with technology. And so I think that that was really the best possible outcome for the coalition. So that's the thing I'm most proud of.
And having spent some time at Mastercard now, what do you think are some of the things that Mastercard is doing that's very key to helping bring about sustainable smart cities?
Yeah. So post City of New York, I probably couldn't have picked a better role to land in. Not just because Mastercard is just an amazing place to work with some of the smartest people I've ever met. It's because I get to apply all of the concepts, all of the fundamental ideals, all of the things that I learned in New York City, and be able to offer that learning to a global community. So essentially, what I was doing for the city of New York, of like thinking about equity, thinking about access, ensuring people can harness the power of technology for the betterment of themselves and society and cities. All of those things that I thought about and I cared about and that I would lose sleep at night with the city of New York are the same things that now I'm losing sleep about for our global community. So now instead of serving one city, I'm serving 281 cities. So I have responsibility in my heart, in my mind, to every single mayor that participates in our network. So, in terms of just providing more access to people, we're making, a lot of contributions on the thought leadership side of bringing our cities together and find out like what are the challenges and how can we activate either internally across Mastercard, how can we activate our network of partners, how can we activate our academic partners and our NGOs to help you, city of X, name any of our 280 cities to solve for this. And so not only that, now we get to look at the technology ecosystem across Mastercard and say, how can we leverage the things, the investments that we've already made into technology across Mastercard to either repurpose it or redesign it to serve people, to serve, well, we already serve people, but to serve residents of cities, to serve cities. And so we're thinking about financial inclusion in a really big way because I think that's a huge component of sustainability is to ensure that people are financially sound and prepared for a disaster, or they're prepared, really to participate in the global economy, because we think that, if we can empower mayors and cities to meet their goal of financial health and prosperity for their residents, then that kind of enables a whole other slew of opportunities that cities can provide for people. But we think that that's like the core fundamental thing is people need to be able to you know, take advantage of all of the benefits that a city can offer in a way that makes sense for them, right? And in a way that cities are able to deliver these services seamlessly and without friction for residents. And so that's one of our current priorities. So we've built this platform that provides like identity with payment to make sure that, number one, that everyone's identified because it's important, right? Like your identity is your life, and it unlocks access to a whole slew of things that are available to you. But then the other part is to be able to um, ensure that we are banking the underbanked. So, I think we all agree that, with access to a bank account also unlocks a lot of opportunity for people. So, that whole program really kind of unlocks financial inclusion. It allows people to have an identity, but it also allows cities to be able to provide uh, residents with all of their services in one platform. And so we've really, really focused on that. The other thing is, I'm really like I mentioned when I was talking about my role is curating discussions and thoughtful conversations about some of their most pressing issues and really kind of getting down to the core of the problem. And I think that, as city leaders, as a former municipal leader myself, I always found it challenging to be able to connect in one place with my colleagues and get best practices, policy recommendations, things that are really critical to the job I do, you know, very easily. So it was really hard to, you'd usually wait for a conference, a public convening of some sort, to be able to connect with your colleagues in a non-sales environment, in a non like, you know, having to sit through, pitch after pitch after pitch just to be able to connect with a couple of your colleagues, but really thinking through and creating a safe space for cities to be able to have these tough discussions and really coalesce around number one, the problem, but number two, the possible solutions and like really explore the art of what's possible. And so I think that that's kind of, the biggest contribution I think that I've seen thus far. But then we also have a lot of things that we're exploring now on things that are impacting cities, um, that are going to be impacting cities in the future. And we're trying to just identify what our role is. And if our role is just essentially continuing these thought leadership discussions and bringing cities together, then I'm happy because then it kind of creates a pathway for cities to be able to amongst themselves, really work together through their problems. And so I think that that's, you know, our biggest contribution is to be able to bring everyone together.
Looking at the current situation with the pandemic, what do you think are some of the key areas that governments and local governments in general should be thinking about in terms of building a more resilient future, especially taking this chance coming out of the pandemic?
Well, I mean, there are a whole lot of programs and policies that governments can really kind of start exploring and thinking through. I mean, I think if you ask any city in the world what their priorities are to overcome the pandemic, then you might get a whole lot of different answers based on like how it's impacted them. So I don't want to prescribe what they need to do, but things that I've been thinking about that are important is, obviously bringing back their economies. And for me, the backbone of every city's economy is small business. So really focusing on, uh, you know, revitalizing, supporting, and really energizing small business again. Small businesses to me are residents, right? They're equally entitled to the benefits and the contributions that they would get from their municipalities. So I think we really need to get around our small businesses, whether that's through, policy recommendations or programs that we could create to support them, either financially, or through, better infrastructure, training around cybersecurity to make sure that they're not vulnerable, digitizing their payments to make sure that they're able to take payment other than cash when that could be a problem for them in the future. But just really getting around our small businesses and revitalizing them. I also think it's important for us to, get more people back into public transportation. So finding new innovations and new ways where we can have people safely and comfortably commuting across the city, taking advantage of whether it's public transportation, last mile solutions, scooters, bikes, making sure that people are able to safely, begin to participate again in their cities and getting people kind of moving around again in cities and doing that in a way that's safe and that also benefits the economy. So I think just getting people back into public spaces is going to be really important for the future.
We got a lot of new technologies these days: VR, AR, 5G, and all that. How do you see these technology is transforming our cities and the way we live.
Yeah, I mean, I think both like AR and VR can obviously there's a lot of entertainment value there. One thing to think about too is, how we can leverage technologies like that for urban planning and to really kind of be able to see in real time what the possibilities are and how to plan better urban spaces. And that'll include like planning how like we embed culture and entertainment into our communities, right? Now, from the participant side, obviously, like when I think of the benefits of using like VR for entertainment, I think about people who are not able to like leave their homes either because of a physical condition, any kind of limitations that they have, so they could still be able to participate in the culture of a city. Like it shouldn't be limited to just those who can, get up and get out of their house to be able to watch a concert in Central Park or go to the museum and look at beautiful artwork on the walls and things like that. So I think technologies like VR really kind of bring the experience to the person. Um, so I think obviously there's a benefit there for all of us, but more importantly, I always think about people who don't have access to physically participate in these things. I think that just because you're not able to physically participate, you shouldn't you should not get to enjoy them. You should be able to enjoy them just as much as everybody else does, and technologies like VR can enable stuff like that. So for the entertainment value, 1,000% behind it. For things like urban planning and thinking about what a human-centered city could look like if you designed it and built it that way and be able to kind of see that in real time and plan around that, I mean the possibilities there are endless, and I think it'll make for better urban planning. I'm all for new technologies and innovations, so long as again it's all underpinned by ethics, privacy, security, and most importantly, transparency. So when you have all this information and all this technology around you that you're consuming and that's consuming your data and your information, transparency is key. As long as people know what they're signing up for, what they're consuming, and what information of theirs is being consumed and agree to it, then I'm all for deploying, you know, drones, goggles, lenses, implanting a chip, whatever. I'm a geek by nature. I've just been geeking out on electronics and devices and technology since I can remember. I was taking things apart to my parents' dismay since I was a super little kid.
Talking about the ethical use of technology, we hear a lot about AI and the way it's evolving and the speed at which it's evolving. What's your take on AI and how it can be used to design resilient smart cities?
Look, I think when designed right, when designed around the person, and when designed with embedded privacy by design, any piece of technology can benefit people. AI in particular, I think it's important to ensure that ethics and transparency are really embedded into the design of it. Um, it's important that we think about bias when we're thinking about any kind of system that is making automated decisions that impact our lives. So that being said, when designed properly and when designed, around the user and respecting the user's rights and privacy, I think AI could be a super powerful tool, and we could harness that technology for the betterment of everybody's lives. I think, when you're thinking about operational efficiencies for small businesses, when you're thinking about ensuring that residents are safe in their spaces, when you think about other applications that AI could provide lots and lots of value for, I think that the benefit definitely outweighs the risk when it's mitigated properly and when privacy is designed into it, and when bias is completely eliminated from it. And there's a lot of things that already exist today. There's a lot of either as software or as code that you can embed into some of these AI systems that could point it out the bias and help you kind of design to eliminate it. And so if we take those steps, there is no reason why we can't harness the power of AI for the betterment of the human condition. I believe that strongly. But without it, and with you know, AI systems going unchecked, it could be very destructive and it could really negatively impact people's lives. When you think about AI systems that are being used, you know, to make decisions on like in the criminal justice system or housing benefits or like things like that, really it can have a significant impact on people's lives. We need to take like a microscope to those systems and ensure that we're using them properly because again, when used properly, they can benefit people and they can help improve people's lives rather than hurt. And so I think it's a matter of doing it right. It's a matter of ensuring that you have the right principles when you're building this, ensuring that you have the right people that are building this, and ensuring that you have a very, very diverse team of developers who can look at things from all kinds of perspectives. And then as a double, insurance is bringing in a third party that can really analyze your system and ensure that, it is good for everybody and not just for a few. That was very philosophical and wordy, but, I think that it's an important topic and I think that we really need to always have it in the discussion.
Yeah, exactly. And every day AI is being used in some completely different way. It's always so surprising. And as long as it doesn't turn Terminator, I think we'd be okay. Talking about Terminator, a lot of the technologies we see today, some of these things you've already seen in movies like Star Wars and Star Trek. What are your thoughts on the movies and concepts inspiring us to design and build future cities?
Yeah, whenever anyone asks me that, like about the future and such, I always think about being a little kid. And I don't know if you would sit down with your friends and be like, "Yeah, when I'm a grown up, I'm gonna have a flying car, and I'm gonna have one of those teleportation devices to where I could be somewhere across the world in 30 seconds or what." You used to think about things like that and talk about them. And although we're not there today, you have to look at how far along we've come as a society and how far along technology innovations have come along. So when you think about flying cars, there's already, drones that are capable of transporting human beings. There's self-driving cars that are, granted, some minor tweaks here and there that need to be done to really kind of make them, able to just kind of self-drive 100% across, busy intersections of busy streets in a very safe way that protects people. So there's, look, we're talking about flying vehicles, self-driving cars, even to me, like thinking about FaceTime, right? You used to watch in the movies like Star Trek or whatever, these devices where people were talking with each other on holograms, etc. All that stuff is a reality today now. Obviously, the connectivity hasn't caught up to the technology just yet, but now we're having breakthroughs around 5G and being able to, these devices depend on connectivity and depend on information around it to be able to effectively function. And so now 5G is becoming a reality, and now future generations of connectivity are going to unlock more and more features and more potential out of these uh, technological advances that exist today. But I just think about I still put on a VR set of lens or anything, and it freaks me out because I'm like, never in a million years would I have thought as a kid that I would put on a set of goggles and I could experience a whole other universe around me, right? And so I mean I'm a geek, like I said, so stuff like this really, really inspires me. And every time I think I've seen a new technology, something new comes out, and I'm just equally wowed, and I'm very excited about the stuff that my kids are going to get to see, and whether it's from consumer electronics or how they participate in the city they live in or the type of car they drive. I'm really excited to see what's going to happen, and I like where we're at. Obviously, maybe we could be light years ahead, but maybe we could also be way more behind. Who knows, right? We can't tell. We don't know the future, but I what I do know is there's some really smart people building beautiful, smart things out there, and so I'm excited to see what's going to happen with them.
That's a lot of information about smart cities. Could you please share some of your thoughts on the smart islands thing that we're working on?
I think the true test of technology and innovations and anything that you really want to um, embed in a city you got to have somewhere to test it out, and you need these, pun intended, sandboxes where you can play and where you can test things and you can pilot things and you can try new innovations. Number one, like if you think about like the Smart Islands project, I think it's probably one of the most genius things because you've got this test environment that is a completely different landscape that's going to provide you with different challenges that you may not be able to see immediately in like an urban space because it's more difficult to test live. So on this Smart Islands concept, to me, you've created this really cool sandbox for disruption and innovation where people can test and deploy technologies in a place that I think it's even though, obviously there's people participating, I think it's like a more controlled environment. And that, like, if I'm a technologist and I built this product or solution and I'm looking for a place to test it on, I can't go to the middle of New York City and test it, or the middle of London, or the middle of Singapore. Oh, Singapore's super innovative, so maybe but you need a place where you need this innovation test bed where you can prove your technology. And so, what better place of this cluster of islands that are you know posing this new set of challenges that you hadn't thought of before as a technologist. So when you deploy and test your technologies, the learnings go beyond what you would get in a traditional landscape. So I love it. I mean, I think it's a really really brilliant concept, and I think there's going to be a lot of good learnings coming from. But then when you test and you prove the technology there, then you can take it outside of the islands and really kind of take it to scale. And a lot of people are going to be benefiting from it on a larger scale. And so that's super important. I think that, what you all have created is going to attract a lot of people who want to test their technology and a lot of really, really bright and smart people, other than it's just a gorgeous landscape and you just want to be there. But if you're a geek, you're going to look at it and say, this is where I want to test my platform. This is where I want to test my technology and show the world what it's capable of and scale it and obviously, serve a lot of people from it. So yeah, no, I love what you've done with that Smart Islands concept.
We know you got a lot more going on with your life. Could you share all the other cool stuff that you've been doing, like being a DJ, being a cook, and all the other exciting stuff that you do?
I try to so I cook every day. I DJ regularly, like my DJ setup right there. Not as much as I would like to, but I put on a record or two every now and then. But they're my. I always tell everyone I'm a DJ first, then I'm a technologist, then I'm everything else. But first, my passion, the thing I love most, is DJing, and then the second thing is I love to cook. I refer to myself as an amateur pit master. So I smoke briskets and turkey and chicken and vegetables. I spent a bunch of money on a new smoker. It's just it, I like two things. I love the process. I love what I learn when I'm trying new flavors and new textures and things on the food that I make. But more than anything, I love watching my family or friends sit down and enjoy what I made for them. Like, if I'm making a brisket, I want to see the look on their face when they take that first bite and the satisfaction. That's kind of like my way of showing love. That's how I show the people I love that I love them, is I cook a meal for them. And so uh, very passionate. Same thing with music. One of my most favorite thing about being a DJ, and when I used to DJ at clubs and music festivals and concerts and things like that, the best feeling in the world was like putting on a record and like dropping the needle, turning up the volume, and watching the crowd's reaction. Like either someone knew the song and just was like singing their heart out and dancing their butts off, or hugging a friend, or like just a big smile on their face. That feeling, that like connection that I would get with people, and like looking at someone in the crowd and like they were just so happy that you played that song. I would like live for that moment. So I guess the thing that underpins like my hobbies, which is cooking and DJing, is serving others. It's just making someone else happy, I think, is the biggest thing. Because a lot of times I don't even like eat my own food. I'll just take a couple bites. Like I made ribs yesterday, smoked ribs for my family. My parents came over, etc., and they were just devouring them. I ate one rib, but I just like sat there and just like watched them eating it and talking about it. I don't know. It's just one of those things where I just get a lot of pleasure. Like I get a lot of joy out of watching people be happy for something that I served, whether it was a plate of ribs or a sick track. I just get a lot of joy out. I'll never make them my job. There's no possibility of me ever turning that. I've already made DJing my job years back, but now it's more about the satisfaction I get from it. If I turned it into a job, I think I would lose some of the satisfaction. And you know how I feel about culture and music, it's what makes cities, it really is. It's the identity of a city. Every city has a sound if you think about it. When you visit a city, there's a certain genre of music or a sound that you really kind of get and that it projects and a culture that you can feel there. And I think that's what makes cities sellable. When people are thinking about bringing back tourism, bringing back visitors, etc., it's important to tap into your identity as a city and just exploit the hell out of that, right? People go to New York, they know what they're getting. They know, there's going to be live music at some bars. They know there's going to be hip hop playing on the streets. They know that there's going to be live musicians at the subway station with a saxophone or a beautiful violinist or an opera singer in the middle of Central Park. It's like the sound. And so I think every city has that sound and has that identity and that culture, and that's what's going to bring people back to them. Not how cheap the ticket is or not how, how many perks the hotel's giving you. You're going because you're looking for a certain experience and a certain feeling that you're going to get from that city, and only culture provides that.
Once again, thank you so much for joining us to tell us about how you're changing cities all over the world and making people's lives better.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. I can't wait to be there in person, man. I'm telling you, as soon as the world allows it, I'm on a plane, we're hanging out, and we're gonna because you already are, but I'm gonna immerse myself in all things Maldives. I'm so excited for it.